welcome to my art form.
It's time for Post-Orthodoxy, a show about changing our minds.
Yeah, baby.
With your hosts, Dark and Ainsley Sevier.
Maybe what they believe about reality isn't all of reality.
What?
I know, right?
We're on a mission to have a better time with more people more often.
The question is more, how do you get there?
Post-Orthodoxy explores strongly held beliefs, how those belief systems divide or connect people, and what might be found beyond those reality bubbles.
Keep calm. Don't lose your head.
I've got a piece of chocolate here with me because I got anxiety about doing this.
Welcome to this neighborhood, neighbor.
Yes, indeed. Welcome to Post-Orthodoxy. Welcome to the outpost in the borderlands. This is an outpost in the borderlands between belief systems.
We're live?
We're live.
Hi.
Yeah, we're live in our bathrobes today.
Been rushing around trying to get a show together for you.
Yeah, you know how how you feel like comforted and soothed if like somebody is telling you something and they're in a suit with a tie and like there's some nice calm classical music in the background and
seems legit then.
Yeah, it seems really, you just sort of automatically feel safer. And they might eventually say something that you're like, oh, I know that's not a thing. But in the beginning you were like immediately soothed, They
put on a suit, they must really feel things about what they say.
Or
it's really
they're wearing a suit.
Legitimate.
They must have some sort of authority to say that thing. Like
suits are really important.
A businessman or a college professor or a politician, something like that. Well,
news person with hairspray.
Yeah, we are not doing that thing.
No hairspray today.
No. Beautiful. You look great.
Welcome to the show.
We're not doing that. Dark, you have a whole thing about ties, titles, and strongly held convictions. God. I think it's always worth repeating that there are many people in the world that can and do know things without having worn a tie, without having received a title of knowing that thing from somebody else, and without necessarily even holding that belief with a chokehold.
With conviction.
Conviction.
Right.
I can know some things and still hold them loosely in an effort to be available to know different things if necessary in the future.
What I like to say is conviction causes convicts.
Ooh.
You get convicted.
Yeah. Conviction is...
and then you're in the cell of your conviction.
Yeah. We do sort of think of conviction as a good thing. We often, in the U.S. at least, in the modern U.S. that I grew up in, we think of conviction as a positive thing.
I'm convicted of some things, yes. But I also... I think conviction without some sort of malleability in hearing new information is problematic.
Yeah.
Conviction feels really good.
Like I said... say a lot. I've been saying a lot recently. I would rather know the truth than feel safe. I would rather know the truth than feel assured that I'm right or have been right. I would rather know the truth than feel as though I've been doing the right thing all along. And that's really hard. I really thought I was doing the right thing my whole life. And there came a time when I had to realize that the truths I was convicted about, such as homosexuality is unnatural and sinful behavior that will send you to hell.
Somebody told you that?
Yeah, that was what I grew up believing.
Yeah.
Because that was what I was told, and that was the reality I lived in. Those were the only people that I socialized with.
So why would you believe anything else?
Yeah. Or you have no awareness that belief is a belief. It's just reality. And I realized that my convictions were not the truth. And I had to decide what to do about it. And we're coming up upon a massive, Dark's new favorite phrase is total narrative collapse.
I got that from our friend in St. Louis.
Paul Niehaus, thank you.
Yeah, he said, we posted something and he's like, narrative collapse. And I was like, this is total.
Yeah, total narrative collapse. We're coming up upon a big, scary time. And I'm not saying scary in a condescending way. I'm saying scary in a primal way.
Whoa.
Because what happens when you think you know what reality is, and then some new information comes along that makes you feel as though maybe you don't know what reality is in a primal animalistic way you feel unsafe. It is scary. It's frightening. You have to defend yourself. You have to defend your cave. You have to defend your loved ones from a manticore or whatever. No, like saber-tooth. Not manticore. That's a fantasy.
It's a manticore. Oh.
It's a fantasy creature.
Okay.
Similar to a saber-tooth.
Okay.
But yeah, anyway. That just shows you where in my brain cavemen and saber-tooth live.
Right.
Still to this day. So it's understandable that the coming days and months are going to be exhausting and terrifying. And most people won't present as exhausted and terrified. They will present as defensive and angry.
Well, that's what I see a lot of right now.
Yeah, that's what we usually do in the U.S. because we are not very in touch with our more vulnerable emotions in the U.S. We haven't had a lot of trauma awareness training in the U.S. And so when we feel scared and we feel uncomfortable, it comes out as defensiveness and anger. And so you're going to be encountering a lot of angry people. And anytime you see an angry person, it's worth sort of imagining in your mind peeling back the anger, which is the defense mechanism of self-protection, and being like, what is it that's making this person feel like they need to lash out? Something is making them feel defensive and something is making them feel scared and unstable. And what we're coming to is that all of the many mainstream news sources, doctors and scientists, we're on the cusp of the tide coming in of it becoming the mainstream thing to talk about how Fauci has lied, to talk about how the CDC has lied.
The bus is heading towards him, and the media is preparing themselves to
always
shove him under it.
Shove him right under that bus.
Yes.
And so our friends and loved ones who have been completely invested in and believed and trusted in the mainstream pandemic narrative, trusted in the safety of these vaccines, trusted in the story about how deadly the pandemic was supposed to have been, are going to become they're going to feel unstable and scared and might not even recognize those feelings and instead just be defensive and feel as though they are fighting for a good cause by defending a belief system, even as mainstream sources tear the belief system down in front of their eyes.
For those of you that are watching this show right now and that might be watching it in the future,
Big Dave, the Rage Slave, is tuning in on Twitch.
Yeah, what did he say?
He said, reminds me of sell your cleverness and buy bewilderness. Buy bewilderness.
Bewilderedness. Yeah.
By the wilderness? By bewilderness? I don't know. It might be an ad campaign that I wasn't aware of because I grew up under a rock.
Yeah. If you're not familiar with the show, it's called Post-Orthodoxy. The name should give you an indication of what we do, which is talking beyond the pale for many people. Outside fundamentalisms, strongly held belief systems, partisan political rhetoric, what lies outside the divide, and the prescribed distractions that we are given to think that we are in opposition to each other, even though we don't even know who the other is. We just project that crap onto them. So we talk a lot about being post-orthodox or being beyond the consensus. That's where the present moment came from, as people push beyond the moment, knowledge-wise, information-wise, spiritual-wise, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, engineering-wise. So whatever is accepted is comfortable, and often when new things come to upset the comfortable, they are resisted. And the people who bring those messages are often shot. Metaphorically or
really shot.
Completely literally
actually shot.
We were, I like to say, the canaries in the coal mine of the wave of censorship that swept through our society beginning in March.
And if you think only dangerous, stupid people were being censored, get on Twitter and follow the hashtag Hero2Zero.
Oh, Hero2Zero.
Where you can find out about our healthcare heroes who were being shut down, censored, kicked out of their jobs, and vilified for saying, I'm a healthcare hero and I don't agree with what's going on right now or what we're trying to do to people.
I'm going to put a little thing in the comments there. It is a link to a piece that I published yesterday on my Substack page. It's darkcivier.substack. There's a piece that I just put up on the page yesterday, dealing somewhat with that conundrum of the Hero2Zero thing.
Yeah.
The name of the article, if you go there, is called "Trump Broke the Republicans, COVID-19 Broke the Democrats. Beyond the prescribed divides, can we find a way to come back together again?"
Ooh, boy. We're going to go through, I'm predicting, because that seems to be what we've been doing on Post-Orthodoxy for the last couple of years, is just predicting shit.
Prognosticating.
That people get mad about, and then it turns out to be the thing.
Yeah, last year's conspiracy theories are headline news, and we were punished, censored, gagged, slandered.
And banned from a community that Dark helped start here in Butte.
Because we were saying things that was shocking at the time. And I'm learning I'm learning. Like,
how?
I just thought that, well, I see something going on.
It's
and
logical.
It seems like it would save people's lives if we talked about it.
Seems like people would want to know.
Maybe we could reduce harm
Yeah.
if we brought out this information that is not widely available. The harm then came to us for daring to speak outside the prescribed.
Which is, again, that defense mechanism. What we were saying rattled people's belief in the institutions that they decided to believe in to save them from the deadly pandemic. And that made us the bad guy.
So having lost friends groups and
banned from public buildings.
Yeah, banned from several buildings in town. I'd like to take today a little slower.
Well, we added, when we started season, we took a 9-month break. We just dated this bitch. We took a 9-month break. A host of fantastic supporters, many anonymously, donated to help us build this studio here so we can talk with you interactively online and have guests from all over the world. And then when we came back to season 2, we began putting a disclaimer at the beginning of the show for good reason. Because we were talking about subjects that were not scary to us. Dark and I already went through the scary time of having our beliefs shaken and crumbled on the floor in front of us. We both already went through that in different ways. So we do not heavily invest in new belief systems, and we are not distressed when belief systems crumble. We have a broader sense of reality. So
actually, I want to read something real quick, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Because I think
to wrap up, we did start doing a disclaimer. This show is about changing our minds.
Yes.
And it's about not being safe. It's about finding the truth more than about being safe. And if being safe is something that you need to feel like you know what's going on in the world in order to manage your daily duties, take care of the people that are depending on you, don't watch this show. Because anything that comes up that's like, no, we just don't question that thing, that's absolutely what post-orthodoxy is about.
Yeah, watching a lot of my super liberal friends that had the coexist bumper sticker with all the faiths getting together have
suddenly
become
not coexist anymore.
Not coexisting.
No more coexisting for you.
So the things we say may upset some people who are invested in current narratives. And so I want to read something from this website I found called Nexus Global. And this is from their page 2021 Vision. Because people are saying, so what's the vision?
Global?
Nexus Global. So it's imaginenexus.org.
Okay.
And people have been saying, well, what's the good news? So I've been looking for some good news. I've been trying to find what is the silver lining to the dark gray clouds that we're living under. And I found this part of this page about the 2021 Vision, and we can get into this maybe in another show.
Yeah.
But I just found this interesting. This is under a little subheading called Narratives. Once we recognize the power of the current narrative in our life, we can begin to liberate ourselves from it. We begin to see that this was never us at our core. We witness much of what is going on around us as a form of insanity. As individuals, we are not warlike. As individuals, we know that living in harmony with the environment is well within our means. As conscious beings, we do not want others to live in misery, so why would this be our collective experience? And it all has to do with who controls the narrative.
Yeah.
So that is the big...
Is that saying, like, why would we want to be having such a bad time?
Why are we having a bad time when we all know that we could be having a better time?
Well, I don't think we all do know that, for starters.
I think on the inside, we do know we could be having a better time with each other.
Well, but
we end up buying these bullshit narratives that say that guy over there wants to take your cow or whatever.
I don't know. And excuse my voice, I was screaming bloody murder on a roller coaster in Vegas this weekend, and then screaming bloody murder at the Lady Gaga show. So that's why I sound like I smoke a lot.
Oh.
I meet like tons and tons of people who like present as happy. I use medical terms. The patient presents as happy.
Yeah.
Because they are in acceptance of the fact that life is shit for everyone. I know so many people like
it's a very Judeo-Christian thing.
It is. Yeah. And they don't even know that they're accepting this Judeo-Christian narrative. But like my grocery store clerk. Like I have this one grocery store clerk that I keep up with. And she is so sweet and positive and encouraging, and is also in a really shitty life situation, always struggling, doesn't have time to take care of herself or her loved ones, and understands that's just the way life is as an adult.
For her.
But she believes that that's just the way it is.
Everybody's experience, sure.
And there are lots of people like that who don't, they just, high school's shitty, teenagers suck, adulthood sucks, Mondays suck. That's just the way everybody experiences it. And so you don't have, I think there are many people who do believe that we could be having a better time, but I also think that there are like a lot of people that don't think that we could be having a better time, because if we could be having a better time, why wouldn't we?
Well, it's the acceptance of whatever narrative is prescribed. And unfortunately, we live in a time where corporate news media, the business model of the news is to drive traffic, and what drives traffic is fear. So unfortunately, I don't know if they're like, we want to make everybody scared. However, they do say, if we make people scared, we'll make more money.
You know what makes people go buy stuff is fear.
Fear, yes.
On a primal level, on the caveman level, on the animalistic level, if I feel unstable and fearful, I need to go and prepare my cave for a disaster. So I will buy things.
Right. So that's the way it works. This is how our news works. So why are we all hating each other right now? Families, communities. It's, the political divide has gotten extremely bad in the last 20 years, but then it's been just
low-key bad for a long time.
It's been rocketed into this other thing with the COVID narrative. People start to have little antenna go up when I say COVID narrative. What do you mean COVID
What do you mean narrative? There is just the reality.
Well, I'll tell you what I mean.
Yeah, Dark, what do you mean?
There's a lot of different stories about what's going on in the world right now. And I really believe this COVID narrative has not only split up families and communities, but this is splitting time itself. It's splitting time itself.
Yeah, we're literally in parallel universes.
Pre-COVID and post-COVID. Mm-hmm. These are different worlds. And the world, we can look back at how we got to here, but what is happening over here, I don't know. But there are people working feverishly to ensure this narrative
is the story
from this point.
Yeah.
And that narrative is being created by buttloads of corporate money. Ungodly amounts of corporate money.
Yeah.
Leading up to this split in time, we remember this Bernie Sanders cat talking about income inequality, and we kind of remember Occupy Wall Street from way back talking about income inequality. Yeah. And that was the driving force. And then the DNC,
yet again,
they corrupted the democratic process in order to ensure that some corporate hack was the nominee twice.
I watched it happen live on Facebook. Yep. People talked themselves out of voting for Bernie in the primary in case not enough people voted for Bernie in the presidential election.
The main topic, the big driving force, was income inequality.
We were going to talk about, you remember the last time somebody was really going to talk about income inequality and then he was murdered?
There's few folk.
Yeah, a few times that's happened.
Is that Jesus?
They didn't kill Bernie this time. I guess it would have been a little too high profile.
No, he's still useful.
What with cameras and the internet?
No, he's still useful. He actually kept people in the Democratic Party and kept them from breaking up and starting a new party to challenge the old guard. So he was very useful as a corporate tool, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Income inequality was the driver of his fame. The pandemic narrative happened, and that income inequality has gone supersonic.
And also out the window at the same time.
The poor have gotten poorer dramatically. The rich have become obscenely, feedback loop, insanely rich.
Yeah, exponential.
So the narrative, we have the opportunity, this is a kairos, where we have the opportunity to change the narrative going forward. But we don't have multi-billion-dollar ad campaigns. By the way, I'm just going to put our website in there. We do take subscriptions.
Yes, we spent a lot of time building a website and creating a portal where we're going to be hopefully creating a community beyond centralized social media and internet usage over the next several years. And we hope that you would like to join us in building that community. Right now, we put in 30 to 40 hours every week to prepare for our show, to research, to bring you good information, and then to retroactively clean the show up and put it on a podcast website, among other things, pull out clips that people can share around more easily than a 2-hour long form. And we're not getting paid to do any of that work. But if you take any value from the kind of work that we do, you could help support us.
So sorry for the ad in the middle of the rant, but
this is what you do.
This is what we're doing. So this idea of splitting time and the idea of who controls the narrative and the beautiful promo that Ainsley put together for our show titled Total Narrative Collapse.
Oh, that was cool. I actually have it pulled up if you want to watch it.
You can find us. You can find Ainsley Sevier, Dark Sevier, and Post-Orthodoxy on Twitter, where that's our newest hashtag, which is narrative collapse. The purpose of our show is to share with you the things that we have learned from brainwashing ourselves. We were brainwashed in cults as youths and then found a way to deprogram ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so we like to say we have enhanced natural immunity from bullshit.
To bullshit.
So when we are looking at the world and we can see that's cult-like, that's cult-like, that's cult-like. And then there are these mass psychoses where people get swept into these things. So I want to start off today's show with this Instagram post. I don't suppose you have that image, do you?
I do, but also for some reason my computer decided that it wasn't going to boop over to the thing.
Oh, yeah.
So while I do a little bit of troubleshooting,
it just came on. Oh, it's okay.
It was just a black screen. It wasn't like an anything screen that we could talk about.
I'm going to read this, Anthony. While you're working on that, I'm going to read this post, this Instagram post.
Yeah, and then once we do the Instagram bit, we have a question from Big Dave the Rage Slave.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So if you go to the Guardian Instagram page, I guess this is from September 13th. The Guardian made a post titled "The Sexiest Man Alive," and it's a picture of this senior citizen, Anthony Fauci, 80-year-old guy.
He's 80?
Yeah.
No way.
Anthony Fauci, an 80-year-old scientist.
He's 80?
Doctor. He looks great for 80. Yeah. 80-year-old scientist, doctor, and public servant.
Ooh la la.
Has become an unlikely cult hero.
Cult hero.
For millions of people during the COVID pandemic. And that's what we want to talk about. Anthony Fauci did become a cult hero.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to treat him like a Jesus. Like he's going to save us from this terrible pandemic. Right? What we found out recently is that Anthony Fauci and his organizations funded the research that is 99.99% likely to have created the virus that he's telling us how to protect ourselves from. But he never told us
that he helped build it.
Largely responsible as the funder of this program for creating the virus he's been telling us how to protect ourselves from and doing it badly.
Yeah.
This cult is falling. The narrative of the Anthony Fauci popularity cult is falling. We've seen the narrative collapse coming since late September, when the internet sleuthing group Drastic
finally started hitting the mainstream.
They put this stuff together in May of 2020.
Yeah, over a year and a half ago.
Year and a half later, the media finally decides to get in on the story and utilize all this, even though they're multi-billion-dollar corporations, CNN, MSNBC, all these corporations have tons of money. They are relying on the crowdsourced work of this organization, Drastic, to collapse the narrative that they created because it can no longer stand up to scrutiny. And what was the narrative? The narrative is that we have a highly contagious, highly deadly pandemic that could kill us all.
Right.
Or a good chunk of us.
And what has turned out to be true? It is highly contagious.
Yes, highly contagious, especially the Delta, even more contagious than the first.
That makes
also
sense.
less deadly than the first.
That makes sense for coronaviruses.
Yeah, that's how they work. And we've kind of always known that's how they work. I mean, we've done it for a long time.
Yeah.
So that's the narrative that was being pushed, is that, oh my God, we have this virus that's going to kill us all. There was early modeling out of London that set the bar for our national, governmental, societal response to this pandemic.
Yeah.
That modeling was shown to be wrong in May of 2020. And yet we went ahead pretending that we were responding to something that we already knew was not as bad as we initially thought.
Yeah.
And that then 2 weeks to flatten the curve became a year of complete economic, personal tragedy.
Yeah.
People are dying. And we said, before we were kicked off the radio station, we said that the reaction to the virus by governments and municipalities is on track to be more deadly than the virus itself.
Yes.
Now the numbers are coming in, and that's turning out to be true. And the numbers are going to keep coming in.
It's going to keep getting worse and worse.
Keep coming in.
We're talking domestic abuse, suicide, childhood starvation. These
World hunger was going down until this narrative, and now world hunger is going back up again. People are going to starve to death.
Yeah.
Because of what they were doing to protect people from a virus that very, very, very few people
die from.
Have a risk of dying from.
Very few, as
less
in like
than 0.5%.
Less than 0.5%.
So I know there's that Bill Maher quote that said basically he was looking at a study on his show that said like 40 some odd % of Democrats think that if you get COVID, you have a 50% chance of going to the hospital, when your chance is somewhere between 1 and 5%. And that's if you get it bad.
If you get, yeah.
And so the other narrative was just stay at home. If you get the virus, wait until you're so sick you have to go to the hospital, and there's nothing we can do otherwise. Even though we have known for a long period of time, that there are early treatments that could keep people from going to the hospital and having an intubator stuffed down their throat.
Yes.
But those treatments were suppressed by the sexiest man alive, Anthony Fauci. Did you figure out the computer thing?
No, I still haven't.
Oh boy.
Sadly.
Okay, well, I can read.
Yeah, read it.
I've been looking at iconic players in corporate media preparing to throw Fauci under the bus. The information came out in September that Fauci had funded this gain-of-function research. His organization had funded the gain-of-function research. And
which means they took a virus that was not transmissible to humans, and they added the ability to it to be transmissible to humans.
Correct.
FYI.
So when that came out, now there's this weird uncomfortableness, an elephant in the room, where people who have been lauding Fauci as a hero, when now it turns out that he is actually the Dr. Frankenstein.
Yeah.
That helped create the monster.
Yes.
So.
And there's documentation.
Yeah, we know it. We know this now. What do we do about that?
Yeah. So yeah. So yeah. So
because you're a conspiracy theorist talking about this last year.
This was when we were saying we don't know where it came from, we don't know who made it, we don't know like if it was released intentionally or accidentally. People were like, you're a total nutter and you don't care about people dying, because we just need to focus on people dying. And now we know that that SARS-CoV-2 was an organic bat coronavirus that was not contagious to humans, that scientists took and made contagious to humans. We still don't know if they released it intentionally or accidentally, but we do also know that at the same time Fauci authorized funding to turn this bat coronavirus into a coronavirus that was contagious to humans, he also got into a deal with Moderna to start researching how to make a vaccine for a coronavirus that came from bats. That's damning.
2018.
That's damning. Yeah. It's damning. And you should want to know if the person who you trust to tell you how to survive this virus is in bed with creating it, is in bed with
the vaccine.
Yeah. You should want to know, because
you could know
700,000 Americans are dead, apparently, from a vaccine that didn't have to exist.
So,
from a virus that did not have to exist.
Right. And Fauci is still going on CNN and MSNBC and saying, hey, let me tell you how to handle this thing. Even though the news is out that he created it. He was largely responsible for the creation of it by taking our tax dollars and shoving it into that research.
That was deemed illegal and dangerous.
And then he lied to Congress about it.
By DARPA.
Yeah. DARPA said, whoa, slow down there, buddy. Fauci's like, no, bring it over here. It's bad.
Can you explain what DARPA is for our friends that may not know?
I can't remember the acronym, but it's like a defense agency that is like, they make the little robot dogs with guns that run around. Like, they're making all the most dangerous military intelligence, high-end military, Star Wars, space, kill you without even looking at you kind of stuff.
Yeah, our national parks are deteriorating. Our arts programs in schools are deteriorating. We don't have healthcare for poor people. People die because they don't have enough money for insulin, because DARPA gets obscene amounts of money to find ways to kill people. But even they said, we're not going to fund research to make a bat coronavirus transmissible to humans.
So, but Fauci thought it was a good idea.
Yeah.
Congress had, or Obama, the Obama administration said, hey, we should not do this gain of function research because you're basically talking about making bioweapons. That's what you would be doing, was making bioweapons. So he said, let's not do that. And then in 2017, under Trump and Fauci's insistence, they said, let's do that again.
Let's do it.
Let's do the bioweapon research stuff again with tax dollars. So the narrative is Fauci's going to save us. And this is often what happens to messiahs, right?
Yeah.
He's going to be strung up now. He's going to die for the sins of the pharma companies, the senators, and all the pundits who propped him up. And they'll get off.
Yeah.
But they're going to hang Fauci.
Yeah.
And everybody who loved Fauci are going to have that come to Jesus moment.
Or not.
No, they're going to have to. This is one of those things that is so bad. They're going to have to realize this guy was not who they thought he was. Santa Claus is not real. This is a Santa Claus is not real moment. If you ever believed in Santa Claus and then you realize Santa Claus wasn't real, go back to that moment in your mind.
What did it feel like when you found out?
And then try to hold space for those of us in our communities that are going through or about to go through that moment with Fauci. It's not comfortable.
Yeah.
And I know in my impish inside is like, haha, I told you so, motherfuckers. I actually want to go, okay, how can we now have a productive conversation about this now that the illusion has popped?
The illusion has not popped, my love. We're going to have to go through a phase of mourning.
Now that the illusion is popping in slow motion.
We're going to have to be compassionate with a bunch of traumatized people who are going to be lashing out as their traumas take over them and their realities crumble. We're not quite at the phase, I think, yet where we can have conversations with those folks, because those folks still have to go through the 5 stages of grief.
So have compassion for your friends that were punching you and making fun of you because you said, hey, I think this narrative is kind of fucked up. Their narrative was fucked up. And they're going to have to come to terms with it to some degree. This is why I say this split time. This
and
story.
It's going to get worse.
Because Fauci's just one part of it.
There's going to be a large group of people on the left, especially in the U.S., who are going to double down so hard that they will just live out the rest of their days in a small enclave of people who agree with their version of reality. And they're going to think that the rest of the world has gone insane, and they're not going to be able to receive any new information, and their entire life is going to be defined by the 2020 pandemic until they die.
They could be the ones that take a Fauci doll and put a mask on it and build an altar and wonder why the false narrative of Fauci being a bad guy took over.
And they'll just continue to it's going to get really bad. Not everybody's going to react that way, but it's going to get really bad.
So Bill Maher, who I think is... I think that the appropriate term for Bill Maher is shitlib, according to the Urban Dictionary. Bill Maher, who is sort of like, he really enjoys being an atheist and spanking Christians for believing in dumb stuff. He claims that he got COVID and got better, but he got the shot anyway for the team.
Okay.
That sounds very religious to me. It sounds like it found.
That's what we're in. We're in a religion.
He fell into the narrative, and then they're like, "Okay, time for your booster," and he's like, "No, no, wait. You're now saying that people who are the vaccinated have to be protected from the unvaccinated? That's not science, and it actually hurts my brain personally to that narrative. The unvaccinated are endangering the vaccinated from the virus." That right there is just enough to make people, this is how you find out if you have an Android or something. Yeah. So I'm going to walk through this a little slow.
But dark, herd immunity.
I'm going to walk through this slow. We were having arguments just 2 or 3 weeks about people who still believed that the vaccine was going to keep them from spreading or keep them from getting sick. That's no longer the narrative. People still live in the narrative. People still live in the narrative, but it's not being promoted by mainstream.
It hasn't been the truth since March of this year. And it's not the narrative anymore either since August, when the director of the CDC admitted that you still transmit the virus even after vaccination. It's not the truth. And it is not the narrative, which is the mainstream story everybody's being presented with, but there are still people who believe that it's reality.
So I was shocked to see a shitlib like Bill Maher, who is not going to endanger corporate interest with his show, suddenly came out and said, no.
And that does not mean Bill Maher is about to be fired for speaking the truth.
No.
That means something is shifting internally in the structure, in the corporate media, government, pharma structure.
So his position is, I'm not locking down anymore. I'm not wearing a goddamn mask anymore, and I'm not going to get a booster shot because the evidence is out. Natural immunity is as strong, if not stronger, and we're going to lay off the as strong in the coming weeks because I think it's fairly clear that natural immunity is stronger than the vaccine immunity, and it lasts longer. That is now a part of the official narrative. Slowly coming in. Mm-hmm. Bill Maher brought it in, and you can hear his crowd cheering for both sides of the story and being confused. And then today, Newsweek, that radical conspiracy rag. Monday, November 1st.
What was that website you found a long time ago that would show you news stories from the left, middle, and right?
Oh, I have to look it up.
Okay.
Newsweek, as of today, it's an opinion piece, granted, but they published it.
Allsides.com.
Yeah. And the title is How Fauci Fooled America. And it's written by Martin Kulldorff and Jay Bhattacharya. Now, I'll tell you who those people are, just so you can frame what is being written in this thing. Those two characters... Martin Kulldorff is a PhD. He's an epidemiologist, biostatistician, and professor of medicine at Harvard Medical School. Does that still carry weight?
Harvard.
Jay Bhattacharya, MD, PhD, is a professor of health policy at Stanford University School of Medicine. Both are senior scholars at the newly formed Brownstone Institute. Brownstone Institute is an organization that came into existence to facilitate dialogue and articles and information around the Great Barrington Declaration, which these two guys were founders of the Great Barrington Declaration.
I know what I did wrong. I was hitting the wrong button on my ADA Mini the whole time.
Okay, good.
I'm so sorry. We can show things on the computer now.
So you can go to that. You can go to that Newsweek article, and we can just scroll through a few of those things.
We can go through that.
Did we before? Yeah, I appreciate anybody who has questions. Please put them in the chat. We may have to, do our thing, and then come back.
Yeah, I do, because Big Dave, the Rage Slave, is interactive. He's
thank you so much.
Rumi. He's got quotes. I like it. I'm
a big fan of Rumi.
What's the title? Fauci what?
Oh, how Fauci fooled.
That's not it.
Yeah, how Fauci fooled America.
Okay, nice alliteration. I can't spell.
How Fauci fooled America. It's an article that I don't recommend Newsweek. It looks like it almost, anyway, I don't recommend Newsweek. They're a commercial enterprise, and that's what makes this so shareable for me. The fact that a corporately sponsored weekly that you find in your grocery store is talking about this, which has the potential to completely collapse the narrative that we've all been shaming each other or damning each other over for the last year and a half. I'm going to read the opening paragraph. When the pandemic hit, America needed someone to turn to for advice. The media and public naturally looked to Dr. Anthony Fauci, the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, an esteemed laboratory immunologist, and one of President Donald Trump's chosen COVID advisors. Unfortunately, Dr. Fauci got major epidemiology and public health questions wrong.
Ooh, that's such a compassionate way of putting it.
Recently,
it's so sweet to say that he was mistaken after 60 years in the scientific field.
Recently, reality and scientific studies have now caught up with him. There are a number of issues that they go through. I would like to start with the one that they start with, which is the thing that has been completely left out of the corporate narrative. And if it had been in the narrative, you would not have had the president of the United States making a vaccine mandate for these companies that are now firing nurses, doctors, pilots, truck drivers, bus drivers, school teachers, blah, blah, blah.
NASA scientists.
You would not have any of that happening if they had included this well-known thing into the narrative. Unfortunately, this well-known thing doesn't have...
doesn't make anyone any money.
Yeah, it doesn't have those lobbyists in D.C. So here's the key issues. The first issue, natural immunity. By pushing vaccine mandates, Dr. Fauci ignores naturally acquired immunity among the COVID recovered, of which there are more than 45 million. Some say that it's probably half the country because many people got immunity without ever knowing they got sick, without ever knowing they were infected.
Yeah.
That's 45 million in the United States. Mounting evidence indicates that natural immunity is stronger and longer lasting than vaccine-induced immunity. Holy cow, like Newsweek is even going further down the line than I was willing to go
we were
2 minutes ago.
We were like, maybe we should still say this in a safe way.
In a study from Israel, the vaccinated were 27 times more likely to get symptomatic COVID than the unvaccinated who had recovered from prior infection.
like that term a lot, symptomatic COVID. There was a lot of talk in the beginning about asymptomatic transmission. That was the big fear thing, was that asymptomatic transmission means you just need to social distance and wear a mask even if you don't feel sick, because you might poison people. You might poison people without meaning to, you know what I'm saying? So I really like the symptomatic COVID, because we have been focusing on this numbers of cases.
Can you scroll up past all those stupid commercials that are going on there?
I did, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It was a video about Fauci for a long time, and then it went to a commercial.
I like the original, which is... it
was a video about how amazing he is.
No,
wait, let me
Gavin
finish.
Newsom getting a shot in that video, but carry on.
So symptomatic COVID is a nice... term to start using a lot, because we've been keeping track of and scaring ourselves shitless with case numbers for the past couple of years, when case numbers are not a direct correlation to how many people are sick. Tons of people get viruses and have viruses in and out of their systems without ever being sick, and even without ever having enough of the virus in their system to be contagious to other people, even not having enough to have asymptomatic transmission possibilities.
That's the problem with the PCR test.
Exactly. Which we talked about a long time ago. But the symptomatic COVID, I think, is important, much like the term fully vaccinated is an important term to pay attention to.
Yes. What does fully vaccinated mean?
When they say that hospitals are full of people who are not fully vaccinated, are they saying that hospitals are full of people who are sick and have never had a shot? Or are they saying that hospitals are full of people who are sick and are only a couple days out of having their second shot? Because that person is still not considered fully vaccinated. So you can have a lot of people going to the hospital who have just had their shots and are sick.
Is it COVID? Is it vaccine injury? I don't know the data on that.
Okay,
But a lot of people are going within that 2 weeks after they get their shot. A lot of people are going.
A lot of people are going to the hospital.
And they're called unvaccinated.
They're called unvaccinated case numbers.
So if you scroll down below that Dr. Fauci photo of him being all nonchalant in some wood-paneled place, let's go to school closures.
Ties, titles, and strongly held convictions, baby.
School closures. Schools are a major transmission point of the influenza, but not for COVID.
What?
While children do get infected, their risk for COVID death is minuscule, lower than their already low risk of dying from the flu. Throughout the 2020 spring wave, Sweden, who we championed on our show as the what do you call that? In science, the one that doesn't, the placebo. No.
Yeah.
Anyway.
The control group.
The control group. Sweden kept daycare and schools open for all of its 1.8 million children ages 1 to 15.
Which means their parents were still able to go to work.
Yes. With no masks, no testing, and no social distancing. And what was the result? Everybody was like, let's watch Sweden burn.
Yeah.
Right? Here's the result. 0 COVID deaths among children. And a COVID risk to teachers lower than the average of other professions.
Wow.
In the fall 2020, most European countries followed suit with similar results. Considering the devastating effects of school closures on children, Dr. Fauci's advocacy for school closures may be the single biggest mistake of his career. I went to the school board meeting locally where everybody was following this guy's information and ignoring everybody else that was saying what was in this paragraph.
Ignoring anybody saying anything that didn't match what Dr. Fauci said.
Ignoring parents who had concerns about their kids being subjected to this traumatizing behavior.
It's not traumatizing. They're saving grandma. Telling them that is also traumatizing.
Even more traumatizing than the masks. We can go about the masks, but I'm just going to skip the masks. We
talked about that one.
We talked about that. Let's talk about collateral public health damage. We are not going to get the numbers on this for a decade, even though the damage that has been done. And it will show far more deaths than by the virus. But let's see what the Newsweek opinion piece has to say. Collateral public health damage. A fundamental public health principle is that health is multidimensional.
This is what we were talking about before KBMF kicked us out. We started asking, will the lockdowns cause more good than harm? And that meant we didn't care about people and were dangerous.
The control of a single infectious disease is not synonymous with health. As an immunologist, Dr. Fauci failed to properly consider and weigh the disastrous effects lockdowns would have on cancer detection and treatment, cardiovascular disease outcomes, diabetes care, childhood vaccination rates, mental health, and opioid overdoses, to name a few. Americans will live with and die from this collateral damage for many years to come. Let's go to the childhood vaccination rates.
Did you know that that we are almost done with 2021 and we still don't have the 2020 census results? Do you know that? No,
Census.
I cannot find them anywhere.
Oh.
Which means household income,
from 2020, right?
From 2020. Like 2020 was a census year.
Right.
We should have access to a shit ton of data.
Yeah.
About how our households are doing in this country. And I cannot find it.
So there's a hyperlink.
I can find oblique stuff, like I can sort of gather together some information from some health organizations. This should be the most important year for people to release drug overdose rates, suicide hotline call rates. We should be evaluating all of this shit as fast as possible this year, not taking more time.
There's a hyperlink in that Newsweek article concerning the childhood vaccination. It goes to a UNICEF page.
That sounds legit.
COVID-19 pandemic leads to major backsliding on childhood vaccinations. And we're not talking about COVID vaccinations. 23 million children missed out on basic childhood vaccinations through routine health services in 2020, the highest number since 2009.
Jeez Louise.
And 3.7 million more than 2019.
Now, my family growing up was not anti-vax.
Yeah.
I think that even...
I I'm not are they anti-vax now? No.
No, I mean, I think the evangelical Christians make up 35% of the U.S. and 75% of the U.S. calls themselves Christians in poll studies, in poll research, and in census data. 75% of the U.S. And 35% of the U.S. is evangelical, and they're the groups. The super conservative religious groups are the groups most likely to be suspicious of government and pharmaceutical intervention in their children's lives. And my family, we still got some vaccinations. You know, we got a lot. We got a lot of the usual ones. We didn't get like extra ones.
Right.
You know, we didn't get like
flu vaccine.
We in general didn't do the flu vaccine because it was kind of considered that like in general, like a fever, you don't want to completely suppress a fever because the fever is your immune system fighting off the illness. If you completely suppress the fever, you're preventing your immune system from fighting off the illness. You also don't want the fever to go crazy. So if your fever is at like 103 for too long, it can start burning up your brain, which is bad. So the flu vaccine was kind of the similar thing where it's like, this illness doesn't generally kill you. It makes you stronger over time and able to process the next flu that comes around. You know, and so in general, we weren't getting the flu vaccines, but we did get most of the typical childhood. And then when I started dating Dark, I got a tetanus booster because he likes to hang out in junkyards.
I like rusty metal.
Yeah. So, but I can imagine how on top of people just not going in for health stuff because they're terrified of getting out of their homes because of this horrible, deadly virus that's just waiting to get you and can't get into your house somehow.
So goes the narrative.
I can imagine that there are also going to be waves of parents who are even more suspicious of big pharma and government institutional vaccination after this because of how poorly this whole situation was handled and all of the lies. Lies.
Fauci lied.
The WHO website says that vitamin D cannot help you.
That's a lie.
That is a lie.
They also said that ivermectin is a horse paste, and that's a lie. It is a horse paste, but it is not. It is also a human medication that has helped billions of people.
Pre-COVID.
Billions of people. It's helped billions of people, but it's a known and established, even though maybe not peer-reviewed, which that's a whole other story.
It is not only a veterinary medication, just like penicillin is not only a veterinary medication.
Talk to the folks in India that had an entire state saved from COVID because they were using ivermectin as a preventative.
Early treatment.
Yeah, and an early treatment.
23 million children missed out on basic vaccinations through routine immunization services in 2020, 3.7 million more than in 2019, according to official data published today by the WHO and UNICEF. This latest set of comprehensive worldwide childhood immunization figures, the first official figures to reflect global service disruptions due to COVID-19, the first of many that are going to come, shows a majority of countries last year experienced drops in childhood vaccination rates. Concerningly, most of these, up to 17 million children, likely did not receive a single vaccine during the year. Wow.
So on that note, that's the Newsweek opinion piece that came out this morning. I think that's going to be pretty special as that settles into our awareness.
So we've got Bill Maher.
Bill Maher.
Bill Maher. Just Maher.
Yeah.
Okay, Bill Maher saying, no, we need to just go back to normal life now. Natural immunity is real. We've got Vanity Fair saying
Fauci lied.
Fauci knew about the lab making the bat coronavirus contagious to humans and lied about it.
That's Vanity Fair. Yeah.
Lied that he'd lied about it. He double lied.
Yeah.
And then we've got Dr. Sanjay Gupta,
who is the health authority for CNN and lets his network, since he's the health authority for that network, continually lie. He goes on. He gets called out by Joe Rogan, goes back and lets them lie again, talking to him.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so Sanjay Gupta has lost his balls.
He didn't have any balls in this issue
he
at all.
He could have.
He
had
didn't.
an opportunity.
He could still do it.
Because Joe Rogan has a higher viewership than most of the top mainstream news networks.
Yeah.
Than
most of the shows on the networks.
Yeah.
He's one show, but he's bigger than all those shows.
Individually. Yeah. So he ranks. He's not on those networks, but he ranks as far as viewership from the American people and people globally. And Sanjay Gupta was compassionately called out for lying and allowing his network to lie about ivermectin, and admitted that ivermectin is not just a veterinary medication. It's been a human medication for decades, as well as a veterinary medication, and has been shown in scientific studies to reduce viral loads. It's not just for parasites.
Yep. So,
and then he didn't do anything about it. So I would say he lost his balls.
There's a cat that I follow on Twitter. His name is Gummy Bear. It's
Paul Niehaus points out also he lied to Congress.
Lied to Congress, yes.
Sanjay Gupta lied.
Oh, Sanjay did?
Sanjay lied to Congress? Or, no, maybe he means Fauci.
Fauci.
Yeah.
So he hasn't been in front of Congress. He's just a pundit. So I wanted to, there's a GUMMI Bear, Gummy Bear 737. He is on Twitter. He also has a Substack page, and I really recommend his stuff. I like him because he is post-partisan. He has a political bias, but I see him doing work that challenges assholes on both sides of the political divide.
Yeah.
He's a nuanced person, and I consider him a very important investigative journalist, even though he's just on Twitter and now on Substack. He's gaining quite a following because he does what he calls the deep dives. He's done deep dives into Fauci a long time ago, explaining his history and who this character is and how he got things wrong, and that came out last spring, the Fauci deep dive, which we talked about on our show. And this guy Gummy Bear, was on the fence with vaccines for a very, very, very long time. He got the vaccine himself. Now he's starting to go like, okay, this got a little too far. He knows that maybe he has health issues, and some people who are saying if you have health issues, maybe go get it, whatever. But it's not. He's definitely against mandates, and that's the most important thing as far as the vaccine goes.
Yeah.
Get the vaccine if you want the vaccine. Don't mandate it for anybody else. Bodily autonomy, the Nuremberg Code, these things are there for
Hippocratic
a reason.
oath.
So anyway, this is an example of Gummy Bear and how he deals with nuanced issues like this.
Nuanced.
He has a daughter who's, I think, 14, who wants to get vaccinated. And he doesn't feel like it's safe or that she needs it. And
you're going to get people screaming about child abuse.
Most of the Nordic countries have suspended the use of the Moderna vaccine in the kids because of adverse effects. We're still trying to rail it through here because people are afraid.
Yeah.
And they want it because of their fear. So this guy did a really amazing thing. He had his daughter write a piece that he published on his page of why she wants to get vaccinated.
This is not written by me. I asked my 13-year-old daughter to share her thoughts on wanting to get vaccinated. I made no edits.
So I'm going to read an excerpt of why she wants to get vaccinated. Being vaccinated is almost like a social class now. The vaccinated people are at the top of the hierarchy, and the unvaccinated ones stay at the bottom. If I had the autonomy to choose, I would 100% get vaccinated. This isn't because I'm some apocalyptic, fearing lunatic who never leaves the house. Quite the opposite. I just want the privilege of normal life, going outside with friends, having fun with people, going to places that I could go to before, but now it's unreachable. So this is an example of the corporate narrative propagandizing something that kids don't need, that now they feel like they need in order to be normal, in order to be accepted. And you could show her all the information that shows that she's at higher risk from influenza than she is from COVID-19. She's at higher risk of having an adverse effect that could kill her or have adverse reactions from the vaccine than just getting COVID. But you can understand if you were ever a teenager why she wants to get vaccinated. And that's the result of the propagandizing by Fauci, CNN, MSNBC, and all the other bastards.
Well, and she understands that she doesn't want to get the vaccine
for health.
So that she can feel safe.
Or grandma.
She wants to get the vaccine so that she can be alive as a teenager and go places.
Yeah.
God, when Amelia and I went to this Lady Gaga concert, and in order to get into the concert, we had to join. We found out afterwards from a guy on the street that was letting people in way early that you didn't actually have to do this clear pass.
Oh.
He was like, no, you just bring your vaccination card or bring your proof of negative test or whatever, and you don't have to do the pass. But at the ticket counter, they have a giant sign saying that if you do not sign up for your clear pass within 12 hours before the concert, you will not get into the concert.
Oh, they roped you in.
Yeah. So they lied to us by telling us we had to have that.
And then you gave up a bunch of medical information?
I gave them a scan of I had to scan my photo ID. I had to hold up my phone while it did like weird little black and white checks over a selfie image of my live face. So
facial
recognition. And then I had to also take a photo of myself for their database. I had to give them my physical living address, my mailing address, my date of birth. I had to give them access to all of my lab results at my hospital here in Montana, which includes like recent tests that I would love if I could just share you my COVID test result.
Yeah.
I don't want to be sharing with whoever these fuckers are all of my recent test results. Like that's private information. And I had to there were like 18-page long terms of service things that obviously I wasn't going to take time to read sitting in a hotel in Vegas.
You're in the Borg now. They've got
God.
you.
And then I'm like, how do I delete this thing now?
Yeah.
But I don't know if I can. Even if I delete the app or log out or whatever.
They have your information.
They have all my information. They know where I live. They know what I look like. And they know all of my recent lab results.
And they know that you didn't join in the narrative. Anyway. So, Fauci lied.
Scott Watson on YouTube. I don't know Scott Watson. His name is in all caps. That's awesome. I love it when a new person tunes in. We've been considering moving to, what is it, BitChute or
BitChute, Odyssey.
Brand new Tube, which allows live streaming. BitChute does not allow live streaming.
Oh, it doesn't? Odyssey, though, is the thing where all the cool kids are going these days.
Yeah. Scott Watson says, attention British MI6, please send us over your best agent to the USA and take care of the mad scientist thing once and for all. Best wishes.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a really good movie. Big Dave the Rage Slave says, no amount of goodies is worth the ridicule of validating a lie. Give me a solitary existence and my dignity rather than a shared experience with liars and shame any day. And now Jamie Woods is calling me out on Facebook. Gaga was worth it, yeah? And I was like, I'm not going to not go into the Lady Gaga. This is what I'm doing.
You got a ticket down there. You're not going to
yeah. I paid $350.
Such a scam.
They didn't tell us about the Clear Pass until we got there. They sent us an email the day before. It was whack on so many levels. And then especially to find out at the actual line to check in that I just needed to show them a picture of my vaccination card or negative COVID test.
You should sue them.
I was immediately and inversely angry at the security theater because I could have had a screenshot on my phone of anybody's negative COVID test.
It's true.
Or anybody's vaccination card.
Yep.
It's like, wait, so all of this bullshit you're not actually confirming. If we'd had to actually have the Clear Pass, which was linked to my identity and my face and my actual hospital medical records in Montana, and then it produced a QR code showing that I was clear to go into the Lady Gaga concert and not get anybody sick, that would have been one thing. But the entire thing was made to be complete security theater because I just showed a screenshot on my phone to the kid checking me into the theater, and I was allowed in.
Yeah.
So if it had actually been a deadly pandemic, all of this is bullshit. It was all bullshit.
Yeah, if we actually had a pandemic that was as bad as they feared this one would be, if one comes along, which maybe if they stop doing gain of function research, we'll be okay.
Yeah, maybe if they stop making viruses contagious to humans that are not contagious to humans yet, that would be nice.
But if a virus came that was as bad as they thought this one would be, we're all fucked.
Yeah. So CNBC is rated by allsides, allsides.com. Don't be fooled by media bias and misinformation. So allsides.com has a rating of very left, mildly left, center, right, and very right.
Okay.
And they rate CNBC as center.
I would disagree.
I would disagree. Allsides has a low or initial rating confidence in this bias rating. They've gotten the 10,000 community feedbacks on this rating.
Yeah.
But they haven't done an editorial review or a blind survey or a third-party analysis. So it's basically citizens who feel like CNBC is center. But I pulled up an article from CNBC. Nordic countries are restricting the use of Moderna vaccine, and here's why. This is from October 8th, 2021. The decision to limit the use of Moderna vaccine centers around concerns it could be linked to cases of myocarditis, a condition where the heart muscle becomes inflamed. Health authorities cited an unpublished Nordic study which had been sent to European medicines agencies for assessment, according to Reuters. Finland and Sweden are limiting the use of Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine in young people over concerns around rare cardiovascular side effects. All males aged 30 or younger would be offered the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine instead. What's the issue? The decision the two countries have made, now several other countries have made this decision since October 8th, centers around concerns it could be linked to myocarditis, a condition where the heart muscles become inflamed.
Which then also ends up, this is what I read.
It's not just a one-time thing.
No, what I read yesterday is that half the kids that get myocarditis die within 4 years.
Yeah. It's the sort of thing where, unfortunately, Johnny drops dead at a soccer game, but it wasn't because of his vaccine. He just had some rare condition.
Yeah, and also causes the parents to go, because of the indemnity clause that was signed by our governments, that we cannot hold anybody responsible for this
bullshit. Because it's an emergency use vaccine.
So you're going to go protect your kids by getting them a vaccine, and if the kid has myocarditis, you're going to have to mortgage your house to pay for all the bills to keep them alive, maybe. And then you end up not having a house and a kid. I found a lady's Twitter today that went, there was just a series of screenshots of her Twitter, and it went from... fuck all y'all bitches, I'm a doctor. Yeah, her talking about how she's a doctor and the vaccines are safe and people need to stop being so selfish and just get vaccinated, to her 5-year-old son going to the hospital for 4 days with myocarditis, and now he's going to be having long-term and recurring hospital visits to manage his heart condition that she cannot get any support from the vaccine company for, because it was an emergency use authorization vaccine and nobody is responsible for side effects. And now Twitter will not let her post about it. Yeah, you can find that on the Post-Orthodoxy Twitter page. Are there any other comments from our folks that we want to get to before we go into another tirade? Yeah. Bimbo Chillstep on Twitch wants to know if we'd like to become famous. Buy followers and viewers on bigfollows.com. No, thank you. Thanks. I'd probably go with Smooth My Balls sponsorship before that one. Yeah. I think. Yeah. Yes. Let me go to Big Dave the Rage Slave. Yeah, what did he say? He had a question. Do you perceive anything particularly wrong with the idea of segregation based on political ideas? It seems the experiment is to jam people of not just slightly different opinions, but utterly opposite opinions into the same systems and expecting it all to just run coherently. I think I agree with your assessment that one of the major rifts between us and our community radio station was our saying that politicizing a medical issue would result in a tragedy and a disaster. We already had a hyper-partisanized political landscape, and then they made it political about the masks. So we weren't saying masks are good or masks are bad. We're saying politicize them is going to be tragic. And then we were censored, gag ordered, slandered, and terminated. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know who thought that was a good idea. I think maybe the politicians. But it wasn't a good idea. Anything particularly wrong with the idea of segregation based on political ideas? Yeah. So what the 14-year-old said in her thing, yes, we have a class system right now. This is what the president of New Zealand, right? New Zealand was one of those great success stories where nobody's getting sick, and they locked the whole country down because they can, because it's surrounded by an ocean. And everybody's like, girl power, look at her, she's doing it. Yeah. And now she has not basically said, she has outwardly said, yes, we are creating a class system. You're vaccinated or not vaccinated, because everybody's going to get the virus. Everybody will get COVID. So wait, eventually, everybody will get it. Is the president of New Zealand saying we're creating a class system and it's valid? Or is she saying, whoa, we need to watch out because we're creating a class system? No, there's an interview. Somebody's interviewing and they're like, well, it sounds like the vaccine mandate thing means that you're kind of creating a class. And she stopped him and goes, no, this is a class system. You're vaccinated or you're not vaccinated. What? Yeah.
And she was like, and that's a good thing.
And yes, and they're still working from the premise, them in Australia, they're still working from the premise that you're going to get rid of COVID. It's in the deer, it's in the gerbils, it's in the dogs and cats. You're not getting rid of it. This is not mumps and measles. It's zoonotic. It goes across species. Those other things, vaccines cured those. Yeah, well, only humans got those.
Yeah.
Everything gets, not everything. Apparently birds don't get it. But white-tailed deer, 65% tested had COVID. Your dogs and cats have COVID. Gerbils have COVID.
Obviously bats and other sorts of rodents do.
Yeah, but not the one that gets us. So this one is spreading around, and it's not wrecking the wildlife community, and it's not wrecking the human community.
Wow.
Our reaction to it is wrecking the human community.
National leader of New Zealand, Judith Collins, says the government is creating a two-class system with its new traffic light scheme for managing the pandemic. Most Kiwis don't want to see a two-class system sowing disharmony, Collins said. However, she demurred when asked to explicitly name the two classes in the system. I think it's very clear, Collins said, citing an interview with Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern in the Herald. She's already said it. We don't want to see that. We want to see as many people vaccinated as possible. We don't want to see people vilified. Last week, for context, the New Zealand government unveiled a new traffic light COVID alert system, which includes significant freedoms for vaccinated people who will be able to go to all venues, subject to some restrictions.
And they can still spread and contract COVID while they're doing it.
Yeah.
We all know this. It's just, I don't know what that's all about in New Zealand.
Basically, this is going to be like, well, it's almost like, you probably don't see it like this, the two different classes of people. If you're vaccinated or if you're unvaccinated, you have all these rights. If you are vaccinated...
That is what it is, so, yep.
Can you describe this? You were previously hoping not to have to do that, I guess, when we still looked like we could maintain elimination across the whole country. I guess that has now changed because...
I think it was less because necessarily of the elimination determining that, and more because we, of course... maintained, and actually we have managed very high vaccination rates generally without the use of certificates. But actually what it's become clear to me is that they're not just a tool to drive up vaccines, they're a tool for confidence. People who have been vaccinated will want to know that they're around other vaccinated people.
Why?
Why don't we just all get badges that say what our STD status is too?
Yeah.
Anybody of dating age is required to
Herpes.
have an STD badge and an STD card.
I would feel better
for
knowing
confidence.
If I'm going into a nightclub that the people with herpes wear herpes badges.
So I can not kiss them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. A confidence thing. This is that twisted. This is twisted. It's twisted.
This is not science.
God.
This is not based on anything.
I'm going to go play her
worthwhile.
saying that thing again. I'm going to play her saying
You want to play it again?
Just that beginning part.
No, I saw this the other week and she's like, hey, you might kind of, it sounds like you might. No, that's what we're saying.
So you
Fuck all
basically
y'all.
said this is going to be like, well, it's almost like, you probably don't see it like this, the two different classes of people. If you're vaccinated or if you're unvaccinated, you have all these rights. If you are vaccinated...
That is what it is, so, yep.
Can you describe this? You were previously hoping not...
Do you have the clip? Can you find the clip of Pelosi and Fauci and Biden saying last year, you can't mandate a vaccine. Of course, we're not going to mandate vaccines. You can't mandate vaccines. This is like 2019 or 2020. It's a supercut. Jimmy Dore did it. It's a supercut of these people just saying, "Oh, of course you can't mandate a vaccine." Now they're all like, "Yeah, why don't you get fired, bitch?"
Why don't you get fired?
Mm-hmm.
Go get fired. Okay.
Say about vaccine mandates is what Joe Biden used to say about vaccine mandates. So somebody asked, "Do you think vaccines should be mandatory?" That's the question, and he says, "No." Watch, listen.
No, I don't think it should be mandatory. I wouldn't demand to be mandatory, but I would do everything in my power. Just like I don't think masks have to be made mandatory nationwide.
Liar.
So that was Joe Biden last year in 2020. Joe Biden, COVID vaccinations in U.S. will not be mandatory.
BBC.
That was from December 2020. December 5th, 2020. Fauci, even Dr. Fauci, this is from August 2020. Dr. Fauci said, everyone has the right to refuse a vaccine. If someone refuses the vaccine in the general public, then there's nothing you can do about that. You cannot force someone to take a vaccine, he said. What changed? Well, here's Nancy Pelosi.
So here's the thing. We cannot require someone to be vaccinated.
Huh.
That's just not what we can do.
We can't do that.
We can't?
It is a matter of privacy to know who is or who isn't.
Well, guess what? Everything's different now.
Yeah, it's almost like...
This is where time split.
It's almost like she was talking about my body, my choice.
Oh, it's almost like that.
Which is like super triggering, I know, for the leftists, for me to say my body, my choice about things that I do or don't do that may kill someone. But it's almost like that. It's kind of like that. Jamie Wood says, you're a bigger fan of Lady Gaga than I. The whole song and dance would have kept me from going to the concert.
Yeah, she already bought the tickets, and she had a younger friend who was super
into it.
Invited you to the... Yeah. You weren't going to not do it, unfortunately. But this is what people are dealing with every day around the mandates and their jobs.
Yeah, I just had to decide whether or not to go to a Lady Gaga concert, and thankfully all I had to do was go get a test to prove that I was not at that time contagious when I went to the concert. Bullshit. If it was my job, if it was my ability to travel, if it was my ability to take my kids to school, my ability to go to the grocery store, these are the things the leftists on the U.S. don't realize are in the pipeline. These are already happening in other countries.
You should look at what happened. Yeah. Look at what is happening in Lithuania. Look at what's happening in Australia.
And this is the thing with this censorship thing and with this vaccine mandate thing. You think it's fine right now because you think everybody should get this vaccine. Eventually, there's going to be a mandate about something that you find invasive, and it's going to be too late because the system is already going to be in place and you won't be able to go to the grocery store.
Okay, can we do more fun stuff?
Big Dave the Rage Slave says, I mean, I don't want to burn everything down or wage war against the current, the current system. I've just spent the last few years ditching any attachments to the system, which is clearly ill. As the joke goes, what's the difference between a conspiracy and the truth? About 6 months. I would say, what's the difference between a conspiracy theory and a conspiracy? About 6 months.
Yes.
Because conspiracies happen.
Yes.
Conspiracies happen. And we just don't always know about them until later.
Can you go to the thing in the paper, which is the...
visual or audio?
Jenin Yoons on Twitter. You can go to her Twitter page.
Is it something that we're looking at visually?
We can look at it.
Okay.
It's Jenin Yoons on Twitter. It's
is this in your notes?
How Fauci fooled America. It's just past that. Jenin Yoons. I saw this last night. Anyone who has like 5 minutes can see how blatantly the CDC lies by comparing this study. And there's one link to meta-analysis and another link. And then one should begin to question everything the CDC has ever said about COVID-19 or perhaps anything.
Or perhaps anything.
There are two things that come up. And if you click on those two things, you get two very interesting sets of information that seem to be completely in
For those looking for the too long didn't read, the study suggests all eligible persons should be vaccinated against COVID-19 as soon as possible, including unvaccinated persons previously infected with SARS-CoV-2, whereas the meta-analysis, also from the CDC, doesn't come even remotely close to supporting that claim. CDC stands for Centers for Disease Control, an organization that is comprised of doctors that have not been within a nautical mile of an actual patient in at least 30 years.
That's right.
But they're still experts.
They're experts.
Let me look at this meta study. Oops.
So that's when people keep saying, but the CDC. That's one sheet. Those links are from, I think, basically the same report. And they're saying two different things. And both of them were saying, go get vaccinated.
Morbidity and mortality weekly report. Laboratory. They make this shit so hard to find. It would be so easy to make this data available for the citizens of this country, like other countries have done, Israel has done, Sweden has done. Yeah. They make the data available for the citizens in ways they can understand. But this report, I don't even know how many links and sublinks I would have to click to find the morbidity and mortality weekly report.
So from that CDC report, risk of reinfection in unvaccinated versus vaccinated individuals with a history of infection. So this is about herd immunity. This is about natural immunity. At the bottom, it says, more recent observational cohort studies, including over 700,000 health system users in Israel and over 11,000 healthcare workers in India, reported that history of prior infection provided greater protection from subsequent infection than vaccination alone.
Yes.
And then you go to the summary, and they say, what are the implications of for public health practice? And it says, all eligible persons should be vaccinated against COVID-19 as soon as possible. Including unvaccinated persons previously infected with SARS-CoV-2, including the people who have superior immunity.
Now, let's just zoom out.
Let's zoom out.
You should be free to do what you feel is right for your body.
That's right.
You should be free to do what you feel is right and safe and healthy for your body and for your health needs.
Should.
And so should I.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, and I love bringing up the Pete Buttigieg story.
Oh, yeah? What's that?
About organ donorship. Pete Buttigieg made a beautiful smackdown, a beautiful, compassionate, logical smackdown on some pro-life people who were trying to pass anti-abortion laws. And Pete Buttigieg said, look, he acknowledged what I've been saying is the main point of conversation on the abortion issue for a long time. We need to be talking about whether or not every single human life has as much weight as every other single human life.
That's a rough one.
It's a rough one, but that's what we need to be talking about.
You're going to get a fight.
That's the actual issue.
Yeah.
Because a 23-year-old college student just getting out of their first stint in jail is full of potential and deserves the opportunity to pursue that potential. And a 7-year-old just getting out of cancer treatment at St. Jude's has a ton of potential and ought to have the opportunity to pursue that potential. And an infant that was born to a drug-addicted mom and is going into the foster care system has potential and deserves the right to pursue the potential of his life, even though he's a newborn from a crackhead mom in the foster care system. And a pregnancy has potential to live a life and do things. And the question that we should be talking about on the abortion issue is whether or not that pregnancy, with its potential, has as much weight and value as the person who is pregnant with the pregnancy and that person's potential, which will be affected by the pregnancy and delivery of the baby. That's the question that we need to be addressing. And Pete Buttigieg goes right for that question in his analogy of organ donorship. He says, look, it doesn't matter how long you've been waiting for a kidney, and it doesn't matter if we're a perfect blood match, and it doesn't matter if I die in a car accident of brain damage and my kidneys are in perfect condition at the exact same hospital that you are staying in waiting for a kidney transplant that will save your life. If I have not said on my sheet that I am an organ donor before I die, you do not get to have my kidneys. I'm dead and I don't need them anymore. And people still do not have a right to take my kidneys from my dead body and use them to save your life. We need to be talking about whether or not anyone has the right to force a woman to carry a baby, even though that is an individual human existence with potential.
Oh boy.
And the same conversation needs to be had about vaccine mandates and passports.
Yes.
Does one individual have a right to force another individual to do something that would save person A's life? That's where we're at.
Tune in next week. We'll solve all that too.
Oh gosh. Pull out that clip and spread it around. Big Dave the Rage Slave is like, I don't want to burn everything down or rage war against the current system. And I'm kind of like, you know what? It's a little exhausting losing all of my friends in bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Maybe I should just compare vaccine passports to the abortion issue and just get them all out of my life right now.
Oh, ouch.
Because I'm exhausted and traumatized and heartbroken over the last several years. Feels like several years. It's only been like 2 years.
Yeah.
3 years of losing people.
Not even. Yeah.
Of losing people because we disagree.
Politics.
And because they think
cannot
that
have a nuance. Cancel.
That it's okay to just cut me out of their lives and their businesses and their homes and vilify me and spread lies about me. And I think maybe I'll just pull out that abortion clip and share it around and be like, let's talk about this or not.
Ouch.
And if you don't want to talk about it, please unfriend me, because I'm tired of seeing pictures of you having fun times with all the other people who have vilified me, even while you pretend we're still friends.
If you share it, just don't put anything about COVID-19 or vaccinations on it. Otherwise,
no one will see it.
No one will see it.
Yeah.
There's another little thing that I put at the bottom of the sheet that I was putting together for today's show. This is an article I started reading last night. It was very long.
Table T Meg?
Yeah, Table.
Oh, Tablet.
Tablet magazine.
Okay.
It's an online site. There's a series they put together called Needle Points. And it's an exploration into the sources and nature of vaccine hesitancy. And it's presented in 4 parts. Chapter 3 begins below. And I want to read a little excerpt from Chapter 3. This is a breakdown of the story of, like, how did we get the vaccine so fast? Like,
right.
Everybody's like, you can't do trials. So here's...
Well, but they said, no, mRNA, blah, 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 long time.
So,
love you, long
still,
time.
But like, we know when you rush stuff, you don't know what the long-term effects. So they did 2-month trials on the mRNA stuff. And they said, yeah, everything looks fine. But they didn't share their data.
Of what happened to the trial people?
They didn't share the data of who was in the trial. Was it random? Was it just sick people? Was it white people? Was it black? Like,
so they did 2 months of human trials and said it was fine.
Everything's fine.
Oh my God.
But they're like, we need to see who you did, right? And they're like, nope.
I didn't even know they had done any human trials. I thought we were the human trial.
No, proprietary. They said it's proprietary. So this is an excerpt from that article.
The point of a trial.
In September 2020, one bit of secrecy. So they're basically saying, okay, shit's starting to happen and we need to know what those trials were. And they're like, yeah, we're not telling you, it's proprietary. So there's different vaccines. And the first vaccine to start showing some what was the blood clot issue.
Which was Johnson & Johnson.
Right.
Especially in old...
AstraZeneca was one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is that the Johnson & Johnson?
AstraZeneca was neurological issues.
And then Johnson & Johnson was the blood clots.
Clotting.
Yeah.
And they wanted to know, well, who in those early trials, we should go back and see who's getting sick and what's going on. Maybe we just don't give it to certain people and we give this vaccine to the other people.
Yeah.
Let's do it, but they're not doing it. So in September 2020, one bit of secrecy was lifted. It turned out that AstraZeneca had stopped its clinical trial twice. The first pause was not even announced. The second one was... but neither the UK public nor the FDA nor scientists were immediately told why. Before they ever found out, however, AstraZeneca CEO Pascal Soriot did privately disclose a reason. 2 cases of serious neurological damage. And he disclosed that reason to the JP Morgan Investment Bank. To some, this said much about who exactly this process was designed to benefit. The government doesn't know, the health agencies don't know, other scientists that want to understand what's going on don't know, but JP Morgan needs to know. Excellent article. It's brilliant medical journalism about the breakdown of how all this came about, of why people are understandably hesitant to get an untested vaccine or have their kids experimented on with an untested vaccine. So I recommend that article.
Wow.
And then before we sign off the show, maybe we can do something positive.
What?
So I'm following this cat on Twitter. It's the last thing that I have on my little sheet down here. I saw this cat. He was making some allusions. He's being kind of like, I don't know what his story is, but he's basically like, shit's about to change. People are concerned, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, it feels a little QAnon-y to me.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, we're going to solve the problem. And so, and by the way, when QAnon came out, I don't care what you feel about QAnon. When it came out, nobody knew what it was, right? So just imagine a day where QAnon didn't mean anything to you.
You hadn't heard those words.
Right.
You didn't know who they were.
Right.
You didn't have any opinions.
So I watch a lot of weird videos. I surf the internet and I try to find out what the fuck's going on in the world. And so, like, I find this video and it's like, corporations are taking over the planet. We're degrading our environment. Income inequality is out of control. And I'm
we
like,
need
yes,
to save
yes,
the
yes.
day.
The military-industrial complex has been fucking America for 50 years. Blah. I'm like, finally, somebody's
Yay!
saying all the things.
Wow,
and then,
someone with a voice.
And then 7 minutes into the video, it's like, but when Donald Trump becomes president, I was like, oh my God.
Oh, damn. What is
Fuck,
this?
somebody was saying all the things.
And then
they shat Trump on it. And I was like, oh fuck, now nobody else can say those things.
Nobody's going to listen to those things or say them because people are so traumatized about Trump.
Fucking took a Trump dump on that really important information. So because of that, I'm a little like gun shy about thinking something positive can happen in the world and information can get out there. But there's this cat, what's his name? Michael Breton. Michael Breton. And he made some post, and he's a friend of a friend of mine who I trust a lot of stuff that he posts on Twitter. So I'm like, okay, who's this guy? And then he's like, I'm saying hello to you, and we're gonna change the world. Say hello to me. And I'm like, hi, Michael. Hi. And like, I feel, it's like I'm mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take it anymore either. Like that kind of thing was happening. I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But then yesterday he made a post that said, we are 350 people in 28 countries building a new global narrative. No mandates, no passports, change everything else. Join us.
Hey,
So
I
I'm
like
like,
change.
Sure. I don't know if I want to join him.
I would like to hear what he
I don't
is
know
talking about,
if he's
though.
going to like poop Trump on that too, like unexpectedly. So I'm
or Obama birtherism, or lizards, or aliens.
It could be anything. Anyway,
Yeah,
so,
we're not saying all things Trump are shitty. We're saying when you put Trump onto something, a bunch of people are just going to stop listening.
It definitely alienates a lot of folk.
Yeah, just like if you say Nancy Pelosi said something, a bunch of people stop listening, even if it's perfectly good information.
Right. So I'm trying to build my Twitter account. I'm trying to get people to pay attention to the stuff that we're focusing on. I'd like to get people to go to our website. We're looking for some help. $5 a month recurring subscription to our show to enable us. The reason we're in bathrobes today is because we woke up and we're like, holy shit, Newsweek is destroying the narrative. And so we just put some stuff together and then came
I
here
want to show my cool video.
Without getting dressed.
But that's okay because neither we nor our core friends of the show believe that you need someone else to approve of you being smart.
Right.
And we don't need to look a particular way in order to be an intelligent and thoughtful person on the planet, human neighbor, et cetera, et cetera. So
we're just trying to make sense of some stuff here. And we're letting you in on our journey of trying to make sense of some stuff.
I'm going to show my cool narrative collapse video. And then I think we should maybe talk a little bit about trauma.
Okay, I want to finish this thing.
Oh, I didn't know you were in the middle of a thing.
Yeah, that guy, Michael Breton.
Oh.
Or whatever.
Okay.
And I'm going to share, I shared you his Twitter page. And now I'm going to share, I'm just going to go to the homepage on this.
Nexus Global.
Yeah.
Michael Breton says, build a world where poverty and war are eliminated, wealth is shared. Triggered.
I know, right?
And the natural world is celebrated and protected. But I do like that.
So yeah, I'm now posting imaginexus.org. That's the website. And I don't know what they're doing. I couldn't find an about page to say who's funding this or, what the deal is. But it's a lot of nice rhetoric. I don't know if this is like some front for the World Economic Forum. I have no idea. And so it's a nice page saying, shall we come together to build this new world?
I live in a place where there is no war, where there is no poverty. Contact us. We in this place understand finally why, generation after generation, century after century, we only see the pretense of change. Shall we come together to build this new world? The document, entitled Nexus Global, contains the thoughts and ideas that serve as the foundation for a proposal for a reimagined world. Learn more.
So, yes.
Foundation, Imagine Nexus Global.
I want to spend time on this show talking about solutions and vision. Part of the reason we're all traumatized train wrecks is because we have been in crisis management as a culture since before September 11th. It's just been crisis after crisis after crisis.
Yeah.
It's an environmental crisis, terrorism crisis, war crisis, economic crisis, political crisis. And when we just focus on those crises, we don't know how to navigate them on the way to somewhere else. This was the point made by Adam Curtis. Is like we're in crisis management, but there's no vision for what happens. So you just manage a crisis until another crisis happens. And you're just blindly meandering around through crises, and then we're all like, how do we deal with the crisis? Meanwhile, those crises are keeping us from actually coming together and imagining a world where we don't have to deal with a fucking crisis every 2 days. So there are people, I don't know about these cats. They might be assholes, or they might be saving the world. I have no idea. But I want to start focusing on these, and if you're out there and you know individuals, groups, organizations that are focused on something beyond the current crisis of how we might be getting along better and tell the oligarchs to go fucking shove it up their ass. We're being manipulated by a very, very small percentage of the population.
Yeah.
The rest of us look at them as this giant thing. Look at all their money. Look at the size of their yacht. How could I compete with that? They're a tiny, tiny, tiny minority that has fooled us into thinking they're more powerful than us. And that's a con. That's called a confidence game. They have conned us into thinking that we have no power against them. And if we start to like say, hey, wait a minute, then they're like, well, look at that guy over there. He's even worse than I am. Holy shit. We have to get over that. And we actually have to, like, if it bleeds, it leads is the mantra of news. And we have to stop looking at bleeding stuff.
God.
We have to try to start imagining shit that hasn't happened yet so we can stop being knee deep in blood.
Yeah, like move on to maybe the physical therapy stage after the surgery when the bones put back together.
Yeah. Because we still have to manage crises. We still have to keep them from fucking mandating that we take a fucking experiment. We still have to manage all that, but we also have to spend a little time on what happens after the crisis and what happens if we decide to stop listening to the oligarchs. What happens if we decide to, that's my new favorite phrase is how much poop in your brownie is okay. Like,
thanks, Robin Bollig.
If your news organization is lying to you and you're like, oh, they lied to me, and you keep listening to that news organization, you're eating brownies with poop in them.
And saying it's okay.
And you don't know how much poop is in there.
Yeah, you just know
you found out about one piece of poop.
Maybe the other chocolate bits
How much other poop is in the fucking brownie, or is it all poop?
Is there any brownie in the poop? Or have you just gotten so used to the taste of shit?
All right, now let's talk about trauma.
Okay. Oh, I want to play my cool video that I made.
The video.
I want to play my cool video because I worked so hard on it right before the show started. Yeah, I made this really cool video and I'm very proud of it. It doesn't have any sound, but it's
no sound.
It just doesn't have any sound.
I know. Well, make sounds for it. You can do the sound effects.
What's the sound that like the flickering neon lights, in like a horror movie.
It's not doing it yet. Oh, I'm out of time. That's right. I'm not in the same time frame as you are. I'm living in the past.
Anyway, I think we should make a video like this just forever. Like, why are we here? We're here because we got out of cults when we were younger and it was a little less painful. It was still really heckin' painful, but we got out and it made it easier for us to not get swept up into this one.
It's nice to be eating poopless brownies.
Yeah. And it's going to be challenging. So I went to go see Lady Gaga on Saturday, and she was doing this gorgeous big band jazz and blues tribute show. She talked about her history touring and making music with Tony Bennett and her heroes in the field, Etta James and some lady, I don't know, some other artist I hadn't heard of before. And it was just such an emotional, connective experience watching this woman do what she loved with a bunch of musicians who also were doing what they loved on stage. And they were all working together and they were in flow together and they were playing off each other, the conductor and the lead brass boys and the pianists. It was really lovely. And it made me feel really sad about one of the main friendships that I've lost because of all this bullshit. A friend of mine who's really into blues and jazz.
Yeah.
And just remember like all the stories he used to regale me with about jazz and the history of jazz in the U.S. and the history of African Americans in jazz, and St. Louis and New Orleans and D.C. and all these places that he's done music and heard music. And I felt in that concert hall listening to Lady Gaga sing the blues, I felt a moment of being healed enough in my own pain from having this friend tell me to beat it, to pound pavement and never come back. I had a moment of feeling healed enough by this beautiful concert Lady Gaga gave that I was like, maybe I will just let him pretend that he never hurt me so that we can be friends again. And I know that that sends up a lot of red flags for people, and it could be considered abusive, cyclical. But I think it's also partially compassion. I mean, compassion is not, means you don't always force people to do what you need them to do.
Well, I will, this is a sensitive subject, and you're talking about personal.
Yeah.
But I'd like to play devil's advocate, because this is what we're saying about people who put, like, our politicians and our media sources.
But we're not talking about a politician. We're talking about my neighbor.
Yeah.
I have different treatment for Fauci and for Pelosi.
Yeah.
I have different. But am I going to continue living in this town and let that neighbor grow old and die and never speak to me again because I demand that he admit that he wronged me?
He has to grow up. And you can't force him to grow up. And I think to allow him back into your life after injuring you without him taking accountability for his injurious behavior is to set yourself up for another injury.
Yeah.
People have to be accountable for their fucking actions.
So where's the compassion then? When are the situations? I'm not fighting you. I'm just saying it's tough. When is the situation difficult. Where? Who are you saying we need to be compassionate towards then, if not the people who have been shitting on everyone because of this vaccine thing over the last year?
Absolutely, be compassionate towards them.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think you get the. Ironically, this is the game. They're like, you didn't play the vaccine game, so you can't be my friend, right?
Yeah.
And that seems cruel and mean because it's based on a lie, and we know it's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't a lie, if the vaccine was actually saving people, then they might have a point.
Mm-hmm.
You have a point. Your actions have been based in factual information.
Yeah.
His information is not. He's culpable to admit that he did harm before you can allow him to do harm again to you. You can have compassion for his investment in an illusion that he's not willing to let go.
Yeah.
But to pretend is to allow the illusion to live in his life, which is ultimately more damaging over time.
I guess it's still just me dealing with, I have to remind myself every once in a while that I really only crawled out of my own cult 5 years ago, and that I'm still dealing with the repercussions of the chronic and acute traumas that caused of having loved ones all over the place turn against me and treat me like I was a horrible person and vilify me and spread lies about me and cut me out of their lives. And now it's happening again, and now it's happening again.
It's apocalyptic. Apocalypse is, what's the definition of apocalypse? Revelation.
Seeing something that you're scared of.
No, apocalypse is revelation. So the idea of an apocalypse, not in a Christian sense, but in an etymological sense, the idea of an apocalypse is a revealing. So if you're invested in an illusion and the illusion falls, you suffer your identity with something that wasn't real.
An apocalypse is a disclosure or revelation of great knowledge. In religious concepts, an apocalypse usually discloses something very important that was hidden or provides a vision of heavenly secrets that can make sense of earthly realities.
So but what's happening with Fauci?
Uncover, disclose, reveal.
Newsweek calling out Fauci is an apocalypse. That's an apocalyptic event because people were invested in Fauci being a hero. And now they're saying
it's going to be apocalyptic.
He is not a hero. He created the goddamn virus, which they didn't even get to in that opinion piece, but The Atlantic did. And not only that, Vanity Fair, he did horrible, horrible doctor stuff. He did not serve his function. He made people feel good by giving them bad information based on policy and not on medicine or not on science. So people felt good because he played policy, but they were trusting him to be a doctor. And his recommendation was as a politician. And when people realized that, which is what the Newsweek article says, that's apocalyptic if you were invested in him being your hero. Saving you. When he was doing the exact opposite. He's going to kill more people with his actions. His narrative will end up killing more people than the virus ever did.
Well, it's also his virus killing people. Like,
it's apocalyptic.
It's fucking horrible. It's not just his handling of the virus that is killing people. It's that it's his virus. He made it.
He funded it. He encouraged it. He supported it with your tax dollars. And then covered it up.
And then lied about covering it up.
That's apocalyptic. That's the definition of an apocalypse. This is a revelation of something very, very important. And it's going to be very, very painful for people who were invested in the fucking lie. And I want to have compassion for people who are going...
So what does having compassion look like for you over the next 6 months?
Not saying, haha, I told you so.
So if someone approaches you or says something online, not spanking them.
I'm being sarcastic and I'm being flippant. It's difficult. Like, people were kind to me whenever I was coming out of some of my illusions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the best thing we can do is be kind and ask questions that might help them process without trying to show how right you were and how wrong they were. Giving them some space, because that's what makes people double down. If they're like, oh my God, I think I was wrong. They're like, see, I told you were fucking wrong. They're like, fuck this then.
I'm never going to say that again.
No.
I'm never going to admit again.
When people say, wait, the implications are this, and that I was wrong because I believed him and he was wrong, then I think we have to be as kind as we can be and ask questions that allow them to process the trauma of their apocalypse.
So if there were ever a moment that my friend who told me to pound pavement came to us, and you know with him it's going to be we're going to run into him at the grocery store and he's going to say some sideways thing that isn't really admitting anything. You know, he's very oblique. What would your reaction be? How long would you be compassionate before you felt like it was appropriate to say, but really before we can talk again, you need to apologize? Where does that fit in?
That's the bigger role. I think I'm mad at people who spanked me for doing journalism at the station. They kicked us off the station saying we were dangerous when what they were listening to was dangerous, right?
Yeah.
I'm mad at that because that's the potential. They arrested that organization's ability to serve its function to the listening audience and instead decided to uphold a lie that harmed people.
Yeah.
So I have feelings about that. Now, I could either think they did that maliciously because they're assholes, or they were fooled. And then I have to have compassion for their level of awareness at that time.
I think most of the people were fooled by a malicious asshole.
Very good.
Mixy.
And I think we know who those people are. So there was a lot of trauma around this virus. A lot of people felt like we don't know what's going on, so we'll err on the side of caution. And so I can have compassion for that. For being discombobulated, not knowing how to deal with it.
Mm-hmm. Just feeling like you're doing the best you can.
I can have compassion for that.
Mm-hmm.
Even though their actions harmed me, I can have compassion for the state they were in when they made that action. So I think it's about getting over myself. This is my own personal thing. Getting over myself and my sense of being injured and my sense of being wrong and my sense of being attacked for trying to protect an organization that I thought was important and necessary at this time. These are big deals.
Yeah.
I have to get over that. And I have to ask them how they're feeling.
Because who is actually responsible? And those people would be the people that it would matter if we talked to them. Because the 70 DJs and most of the board, well, I guess the board is culpable, but the 70 DJs are not culpable.
No.
So there's no point.
They just didn't hold their board accountable. They were bad citizens of the organization. They didn't hold them accountable. And a lot of them knew that they were wrong doing what they were doing, but they didn't do anything about it. But that's further down than the people who actually knew what they did was wrong and decided to ignore it. So we're talking vaguely, maybe not so vaguely, about censorship and gag orders. So like, how do you... If the goal is to come back together as a community and to heal things, I have to get over myself.
Right. These are mine and Dark's experiences of being shit on by our friends who were wrapped up in the mainstream pandemic narrative. And anybody listening has a different experience of having been shit on by someone that they thought was their friend or loved one who shat on them because of being wrapped up in the mainstream pandemic narrative. So our particular experiences were being kicked out of the radio station Dark helped build, having friends turn on us online, being kicked out of the bar that we met and fell in love at. And so like those are our experiences. You have different experiences, and you're going to have different people that may or may not feel safe to come to you over the next 6 months as this narrative completely sucks in on itself and bursts into a cloud of noxious gases. And they might feel safe enough to come to you and maybe obliquely mention how crazy the last couple of years was, and that thing about Fauci. Wow. And
who
then
knew?
That'll be the moment when you and us get to decide how far down their throats we're going to jump.
Right.
And what would be the point?
For me, the meditation is to try not to do that, even though the urge is strong to do it.
Yeah. And would it serve any point if that's the moment? There will only be one of them.
Me being self-righteous is not going to help us cure the divide.
There will only be one moment for each person in your life who decides to come to you and maybe make amends. There will only be one moment. And if you don't handle it compassionately and with trauma awareness, they will never come to you about that again.
Or other things. I have a friend of mine. He's a dad. His daughter is not talking to him anymore because he won't get vaccinated. So that's tricky. You have to let them have the come to Jesus moment. And then when they come, you have to handle it with kid gloves.
Yeah.
You have to be really gentle and I'm speaking for myself, but I think it's for a lot of people. We have to be able.
That is the bigger person.
To be the bigger person and say, yeah, wow, that was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
How are you?
Yeah.
And what do you think? What do we do from here? Like as a society, like how do we heal from that kind of deception?
You know, we all like our superhero movies and our ninja movies and shit.
Right,
That's the real ninja superhero shit, is when the missile is coming at you and you just sort of go like, and let it pass you by.
We got a comment.
The missile of your desire to get some of your own back after a year and a half of being shat on.
Norm Goodwin said, I've had my share of grudges, and I think it's awkward to hear people admit they were wrong. It's not because of being validated. It's because it opens the door for them to repeat the same behavior later. I feel their dodging the conversation allows me to keep them at a distance.
I feel their dodging the confession allows me to keep them at a distance.
Dodging the confession allows me to keep them at a distance.
I've had people admit fault, and then a few days later, they repeat the same evasive crap. Repeat abusive.
Yeah, that's abusive.
I see what he's saying.
And it allows falsehoods and illusions to exist in our world, right? Because they're projecting that shit onto you and blaming you for being wrong when they're the one that are living in a false projection of something onto you.
I can see how it's very difficult to be vulnerable, and you do have to take every person at face value, and you have to take every relationship separately from all your other relationships. That's how you don't become a crusty person. You know, you become crusty if you let one relationship inform how you treat another relationship.
Right.
And that can be really hard. You know, I could be really crusty and locked down because of how my mom treated me growing up, but instead I let that be my relationship with my mom, and I treat other relationships individually without being crusty about what happened with my mom and making assumptions about other people's relationships. That can be really hard. And taking each new instance within that relationship, if they're constantly abusing and then apologizing and then abusing and then apologizing, at some point the apology is no longer valid and a boundary needs to be set. For sure, Norm. Completely. That can definitely happen.
We have a comment from Paul Niehaus on the YouTube channel. Compassion. Realizing none of us chose to be participants in the biggest psychological experiment of all time. It's no wonder so many are insane. It's by design.
I think that's a great thing to keep in mind. That could be really helpful.
Big Dave the Wage Slave on Twitch said, but if they do or don't, it's not within your control, and therefore you should not worry about it.
And he's speaking about if people are earnestly apologizing. Yeah, and he's like, whether they will or won't apologize is not within your control. Yeah, I think we're talking about prepping for the moment where there might be some people, because honestly, we have theories. Dark and I have a conspiracy theory that this is why we actually got kicked out of the radio station. It's a blue no matter who radio station. And we basically said in August of last year that at some point the truth was going to come out and Democrats were going to have to choose whether or not they were going to apologize to all the Republicans that they treated like shit.
Yeah, the Republicans might have been right for the wrong reasons even.
Yeah, they might have been being selfish and childish and anti-science.
They might have been right, but for the wrong reasons. And can they admit that they were right for the wrong reasons? And can you admit that you shamed them for doing something that was actually correct?
Yeah.
But it wasn't politically correct.
You treated them like shit, and are you ever going to admit it? And I think that's a big part of the fuel for kicking us off the radio station was that we were trying to hold what we generally consider our party.
Well, we did.
We did.
I don't anymore at all.
We were trying to hold the party the party that we thought had the potential to actually do something.
Yeah.
We were trying to hold that party accountable and make it stronger.
I don't believe that party has the ability to do anything anymore. Jamie Wood says on Facebook, if you take the right or wrong out of it, maybe accepting people for who they are is a part of being compassionate.
I think that's a fine balance between accepting people for who they are and allowing who they are to be harmful to me.
Oh.
So
somewhere in
there's a phrase that I really liked that I used at the beginning of the pandemic when I had not heard when all we knew was that it was dangerous and viral and a lot of people were going to die. And so I used this phrase, I found this phrase and I used this quote to try to encourage people to be safe.
Okay.
In like March of 2020, right?
Right.
So the quote was, your right to swing your fist ends at my face.
Right.
You can swing your fist all you want, but you do not have the right to swing it into my face. And it's applicable on all sides.
Big Dave on Twitch, Big Dave the Rage Slave said, I somehow woke my mother and I said, there's no shame in having been fooled. The only shame would be to not learn and to repeat your mistakes.
Welcome to Post-Orthodoxy, Dave.
He also said...
He's been around a while, but yes.
And in the beginning of this, she said, she shat on me a good deal, as you put on it.
That's the past tense of shit.
Yes. Thank you for the alliteration.
Yeah, wow. I'm so glad that you were able to have that moment with your mom and that you guys can speak more clearly with each other and that she was able to be vulnerable with you and move on.
This is a watershed moment. And I think the fact that Newsweek is in, even though it's an opinion piece, that magazine has made a public statement in their magazine saying that Fauci fooled America. That happened this morning. That hasn't been out for 24 hours. This isn't like some niche publication. This is like grocery store rag. This is mainstream as you get.
Yeah. Rated centrist, Vanity Fair rated mildly left by allsides.com. Both of those magazines are talking about how Fauci built the virus, lied about it, and then lied about lying about
Bill
it.
Maher would be considered a lefty.
Yeah.
Even though he's very much a corporate lefty, and he's over the narrative.
Over it.
He's calling it out.
Over it.
So this is all happening within the last week. But I think the Newsweek is big because everybody's going to jump on it. This is what vultures do. They find the dead body and they circle it And they've been circling this body for long before this thing came out.
Just ready. You know how people write obituaries before the person died? So they can be the first person to post one.
Right. These major organizations that got the narrative wrong are not going to self-reflect. They're going to sacrifice people that they sold to you earlier. And they're going to sacrifice it.
It was never us.
And then wash the blood off their hands that way.
Have you ever heard of, I thought maybe we're almost done. It's been 2 hours. It's been a great couple of hours. If you guys have liked this video and valued this content, please, on whatever platform you're watching, subscribe, follow, hit the bell, hit the like button.
We need help with that.
Like the post on YouTube, follow us on YouTube, like the post on Facebook. You can put an angry face. Everybody loves content that has an angry face on it. They're more likely to stop and watch content that has an angry face on it. So please throw some reactions on these videos, some likes, some subscriptions. Every little bit helps. That's a free way you can help. It doesn't, like you if you don't want to watch our once a week video, you just swipe that notification off your screen. It's fine, but it can really help us develop traction and have conversations with people that do want to participate. And then if
people are doing it.
Enforce your personal boundaries. Keep the shit out of your brownies.
That's right.
Hey, that's practically like a campaign slogan.
Oh,
it
my
almost
God.
rhymes enough.
I like it.
Jamie Woods, that's great. It's Jamie Woods' anniversary and Norm Goodman's anniversary of being a follower of Post-Orthodoxy.
Hey, thanks.
It's so cool that Facebook shows me that. They're like, ding, anniversary follower.
Oh my God, that's great.
I love it.
Yeah, and I want
Thanks, guys.
It's hard for us to ask money for what we're doing. We're spending, myself, over 40 hours a week doing research on this
Constantly
show.
sharing
trying
things
to get to the bottom of the story.
on the Post-Orthodoxy page that you don't see because the algorithm doesn't want you to see it.
$5 a month is not a lot.
Yeah. But if a lot of people support with $5 a month, it would make a big difference for us.
We have asked for that from people, and some people have gone ahead and given us $20 a month. We're willing to accept whatever, but a minimum of $5 a month subscribing would be encouraging. It's not going to sustain us at this point, but it would be encouraging for us to keep doing the work.
Yeah.
And one thing we did not get to today, because I felt like the Newsweek revelation is big. The fact that Bill Maher is involved is
we
big.
had a completely other plan, and it just went like this morning when that article came out.
We have a big project we're working on, and we want this project to leave our studio. We want to move it into the living rooms of people who are participating in this conversation. We have a pandemic murder board.
Murder.
And we're not saying anybody murdered anybody. Conspiracy board is the official term for what we're doing. It's that thing in the TV show or the movie where they have the red lines going between the murderer and the guy that had the money and the little girl with the doll and all that business, and then the alien. And then we're building one of those about the coronavirus. Is it a virus? If it is, how do we know? Where did it come from? How do we know? How did it get out? Do we know? How can we know? Who's culpable?
What
is a
do we
PCR
have?
test? And was it even useful? Was it a pandemic of a test or was it a pandemic of a virus? Did the lockdowns cause more harm than good? We can look at the data and find out. Should we have a vaccine mandate? And where the vaccine mandates have been applied, how did it work out? We are trying to create a epistemological ground floor for productive dialogues to come out, especially as revelations like this come out.
Oof.
When people start getting destabilized, like I thought I knew the story and I cursed my friend because I thought I knew the story. Now I don't know the story.
And I've alienated people.
We are creating we're crowdsourcing a ground from which to have a productive dialogue on the most important story of our lifetime.
Yeah.
To this point.
So far. I mean, for a while it was 9/11.
Now it's this.
Yeah.
This is the future of the planet.
Now suddenly people don't care about
This is the future of societies.
Any deaths except COVID deaths.
This is life or death. People are going to keep dying from the lockdowns and from the effects of the lockdowns. Wait till this winter happens. People are broke, and there's going to be a massive spike in energy prices. And it's going to be colder this year for some people. And some people may not make it.
Many people will not make it.
And it will not be because of COVID. It'll be because of our reaction to COVID. And we have to talk about it. And we really, I don't know, this novel idea. Maybe we should hold some motherfuckers accountable for who participated in this knowingly. I'm not just talking about Fauci.
Not talking about
I'm talking about the 200 members of Congress that were treated with ivermectin and got better, and then told everybody don't take it
because it's a veterinary medicine.
Some people need to be held accountable for this shit.
This is the part that you ought to get mad about. You ought to get mad about the people that didn't have to die, because the CDC and the WHO said that there were no preventative measures possible. They just said, stay home until you're so sick you can't breathe, and then come to the hospital.
I believe the WHO is still saying that the only way to get herd immunity is if everybody gets vaccinated.
Which is a lie.
A complete lie, and they know it's a lie.
The organizations that are supposed to be keeping us alive are lying to us, and more people have died than needed to die. And I'm not just talking about the fact that Fauci authorized the creation of SARS-CoV-2 that has killed millions of people.
He encouraged the lockdowns that are going to continue to kill people for years to come.
And encouraged the suppression of known early treatments. And we don't even have to talk about ivermectin. We could just talk about vitamin C and vitamin D.
Yeah, we could just talk about that.
We could just be real safe. You know vitamin C and vitamin D are good for you. Most of you probably know that vitamin C and vitamin D, you're short on it. And instead
this is why we get sick in the winter.
There's nothing you can do.
It's a big reason why we get sick in the winter. Lack of sun exposure.
Yeah.
This is why some of the countries that have a lot of sun exposure did not have the death rate.
Yep.
You could know that.
So we're making this murder board. We were going to spend time last week. We asked a few questions and spent time answering those questions. And we have compiled sources for those answers. And we're going to put those sources, make them available in some clickable way, ongoing clickable way on the website. I'm not sure how yet, but I'm going to do it. But we have sources to back up all of these. The first question we asked last week, is SARS-CoV-2 a real, unique microbe? As in, some people on the planet think that the entire pandemic is a hoax, and it's all just mislabeled cold and flu deaths. That's a reality that some of our neighbors are living in. And Dark and I feel our hypothesis is that there is a real novel virus.
That's the information. If you have better information, let us know.
Yeah. The second question that we asked is SARS-CoV-2 of natural origin or chemically synthesized? And it seems to be of natural origin, as in it was not invented from scratch to make people sick.
It was modified from scratch.
That's the third question, right? So it seems as though evidence is strongly pointing to a collection of bat-only coronaviruses that were found in a cave in China in 2012.
We might have to modify that third question, the green thing on the thing.
Yeah.
It says, a bat coronavirus was intentionally and illegally modified to make it transmissible to humans. I think it was actually legal.
How is it legal?
Gain of function was suspended as illegal in 2014 through 2017, but then it was changed to be legal again under Fauci's urging.
Really?
And 2017 under Trump, they allowed gain of function research, and in 2018, Fauci knew about this virus.
Huh.
So it wasn't illegal.
I thought, okay, all right.
It was just too dangerous for DARPA to play with.
It was just that DARPA said no, and then Fauci said yes.
That's right.
Okay. Anyway, intentionally modified.
Yes. So what are our questions for next week? And if anybody has answers, this is like we're doing a lot of research on our own, but we're hoping to have some help from our listening audience and fans of the show and people who are concerned citizens to help us find the answers to the most important questions of our time. And the question for next week is how did the virus get out?
Where and when and
Where,
how?
when, and how? Do we know?
Can we have some idea that's stronger than just not really knowing?
And can we know?
Yeah.
And we may not have an answer to that one, but answering the first three questions gets to take out some of the other branch narratives that came up.
We don't need to deal with
like
that stuff.
The wet market in Wuhan bat by accident. We know that's bullshit.
Yeah.
According to this information, that's bullshit.
Yeah. It didn't accidentally happen because someone got bit by a bat in a market.
I don't think we can answer all the questions that we have, but answering some will take out some bullshit narratives that we don't have to mess with anymore. So please help us with that.
Yeah, Norm Goodwin says there's a paper that was published in 2010 in Wuhan. I have links. Please
send links.
Send them. Yes, please. We have an amazing website that we've been digging into. A bunch of journalists and scientists and gonzo online people. Yeah, please post that. Spent a ton of time at the very beginning of the pandemic being like, whoa, novel virus. Okay, let's figure out where it came from. and they figured out where it came from.
Yeah, if you give a shit about this,
it's only just now being reported by the mainstream media.
Oh yeah, they get to capitalize
on what these guys figured out in March of 2020.
Right. So the mainstream media has millions of dollars to bring you the news, but what they're going to do is they're going to hang out, lie to you for 2 years, and then they're going to let people whose scrappy team of enthusiasts figured out the story. Now they're going to capitalize on the work of these people.
Because now it's okay to start talking. You remember when if you mentioned lab leak, you would just get banned from anything?
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Now it's okay to just talk about that.
It's totally natural. It's totally natural. There's no way it could be modified. You're a conspiracy nut.
Yeah,
Anyway, Drastic. I've just posted a link to Drastic on our Facebook page. Maybe you can post it in Twitch. And
DrasticResearch.org.
That is a treasure trove of information. And that one article that I posted further up in the comments, I highly recommend. I have not read the other 3 parts of the 4-part series. But the name of the magazine is called Tablet. So it's like tabletmag.com. And you can find Needle Points, which is their in-depth, amazing medical journalism describing how the vaccine came about and why some people are saying, Yeah.
I say. Hey, thanks to everybody that sent likes and boops and thumbs up.
That was fun.
That was really encouraging to watch. That was fun. We have about 10 people tuning in right now from various platforms.
Yeah,
I know that we always have some lurkers and we have people that tune in afterwards, and we appreciate all of you. If you ever want to submit something anonymously, you can just send us a message on Post-Orthodoxy. We do not dox people. So if you send us something and you wish to remain anonymous, we'll just be like, a friend of the show shared this information with us.
Yes, if you want to be known, let us know. If you want to remain anonymous, let us know.
Yeah.
We will always err on the side of a friend of the show versus calling anybody's name out unless we've been given explicit permission. Somebody's really mad right now.
I love it.
So, oh my God,
that's gonna
mad.
That's going to make people really want to watch this video.
Mad and hearts. Hearts and madness.
Welcome to Post-Orthodoxy.
Yeah, welcome to Post-Orthodoxy.
Big Dave the Rage Slave shared Thoth's Prophecy from the Hermetic Texts by Graham Hancock.
Oh.
It's an after-school video. After School is a verified account on YouTube that does these really bitchin', like, they draw it and talk about it at the same time on a whiteboard.
For visual learners.
Yeah, so I think we'll bring that in next week because we're pushing way over the 2-hour limit today. But we'll bring that in for next week. I'm excited to just watch that live and talk about it because he said it seems very relevant to the time.
Yeah, and if you know what Twitch is, or you're on Twitch, you can go to our page, which is just called The Seviers. And I'm spending time after this show in the next couple of days cutting out little
clips,
what we call post-orthodoxy microdoses. Smaller, shorter bits of information, so you don't have to wait 2 hours of ranting and raving. So
or if you want to share
easier
a
to share
part,
around with your friends.
That's right.
So thanks for playing. Thanks for participating in the show today, folks. It was a lot of fun, and we'll put clothes on next week.
Or will we?
It depends on what comes up in the Twitter feed. Before we have to turn on the microphone.
Oh, you guys have been so great. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. We will see you next Sunday at 12 p.m. MST. Take a moment while the video ends to share it with, say, 3 friends.
Oh, that would be great. And like us on all the platforms because that really helps us. That helps us in ways you don't know. It really helps.
There might be a few people that you know that would like this content or who have also been feeling crazy and isolated.
Yeah, thanks. Aloha.
Talk to you later. Thank you for visiting our outpost in the borderlands. Post-Orthodoxy is a project of Sevier Studios. We host ongoing, interactive conversations centered around cognitive liberty, and you can join in by catching one of our live streams on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. You can also catch each conversation after the fact as a podcast by searching for Post-Orthodoxy wherever podcasts are found. If you take value from the work we are doing and the community we're building together, you can support the Outpost in the Borderlands for as little as $5 a month on our website, Better Time. That's betterti.me. Visit the Sevier Studios page and subscribe. You can also support The Outpost by following and connecting with us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and or Substack. Our Post-Orthodoxy theme music was composed by Frank Pascal, and a special thanks goes to our voice actors, Amelia, Colin, Zbo, Rosie, Gabo, Vicky, Mokai, and Tony.
Thanks for playing.
what's outside your reality bubble. I think I dribbled a bit that last one.